Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Living on Borrowed Crime, Real Talk with true crime content creators. I'm your host, Scribelite, and tonight we have a galaxy of true crime stars on the channel and perhaps others arriving later. But first off, I want to introduce my guests, Jurgi and Druby of Misery Machine. Good evening, guys. And
good evening.
Yeah, and Kamran of TruRed Crime. Hi, Kamran. Nice to see you. And Dave of Dave's Lemonade, of course. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, or good morning for me.
Yes, exactly. Yes, morning in the down under. So yeah, a couple of housekeeping things to keep up first with. If people in the chat, good evening to you. If you have questions for our guests, I'll be looking at those intermittently as we go through things. Super chat questions will, of course, get priority. Also, if you take a look at the top of the chat box, I have a link up there for the donation page for the National Center for Victims of Crime. If you can donate there, please consider doing so. And if you can't, that's fine. But if you can, share that out on social media. That would be appreciated. As well, if you like this kind of thing, please share this stream out on your social media of choice, whether it's X or ICQ or LimeWire or Napster or whatever the kids are using these days. So in this discussion, I wanted to talk about the distance between the story and the storyteller when it comes to true crime. Now, I have a sort of personal story that I'll use as sort of a framing device for this to get things rolling. And for those of you in chat that are here to see your favorite true crime content creator and you have absolutely no idea who I am, I do not blame you. That's perfectly fine. As compared to everybody in this room, I am the least of what could be called a true crime content creator. However, I have made 3 true crime videos in my history. And the last one was made about 3 years ago. And it was on a guy named Alonso Perez. And I won't go into the details because if you're curious, you can watch the video. But among a litany of crimes he committed in 2016, one of his last victims was in taking the life of a guy named Jeffrey Johnson. And so I posted this video about 3 years ago and got a lot of response at the time. And then like everything else, it kind of faded into the background, just became one more element of my library. Until a couple of months ago, where I suddenly get a notification of a comment on that video, which hadn't happened in so long. It was very out of the blue. And I clicked on this alert and the comment came up. And the first 5 words of this comment sent my heart into my throat reflexively. It said, "My father was Jeffrey Johnson." And I had this lizard brain reflex sensation that was kind of a combination of shame and trespass, as in I was in a place I should not have been. And so in that moment, this sort of abstract notion of the story that I'd done a video on years prior, and that little bit of reality in hearing from someone directly affected by the events kind of came to the fore. And it kind of changed my perspective a little bit on the entire experience. Thankfully, her comment was fairly innocuous. It just said something to the effect of Alonso is exactly where he needs to be. But so what I was curious about, and what I want to ask you guys, is if you can, and if you're comfortable telling, because of course there could be circumstances elsewise, but if there's an instance where something about a story you were doing research on, or something that happened after you posted a video on a particular story, whether it was a positive or negative experience, I wanted to find out what that was like to have that happen, or the first or most significant time you can think of, and what the experience was like for you. So I suppose I'll just start going around the circle. Jurgi, I suppose you and Druby are come as a match set, but if you'd like to start.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Druby has something completely different because we have a lot of cases, both locally and somewhat nationally, that could apply to this. But the one that I want to talk about was when a victim's family reached out. It wasn't a case that we had posted yet. This is something that is coming in the future. But it was a father, or rather stepfather, of the victim. They were in an abusive relationship. The couple had a child together, and they had split up successfully. She had gotten away from him, and she was staying with her family here in Lewiston. and he had come to drop their daughter off at a birthday party that was happening at their house. So while her mother and her were sitting in her car, her boyfriend walked up, and the daughter was in the back seat in her car seat. He shot the daughter, whose name was not the daughter, excuse me, the victim. Her name was Natasha. He shot her point blank, almost hit their baby daughter, almost hit Natasha's mother. So through doing this show and putting episodes out, her stepfather, Tim, found us. He was a listener. He reached out. And through that, we ended up going to the perpetrator's sentencing hearing. We weren't able to make the trial, but we were at the sentencing hearing for this with the family. And I tell you what, that is something else. I don't want to go too much into it because we haven't covered the case yet, but it went from everyone being in generally good spirits in the courtroom. The family was joking with the lawyers, just hanging out. Like there was some solidarity. The minute he walked into the room, because they had to walk him in, and then anytime there was a recess, they had to walk him out. You could hear a pin drop. It was so tense.
Yeah, everything changed as soon as he came into the
Everything.
room.
And he'd walk by and just mean mug the gallery every single time. And I thought Tim was going to come right up over the pews and get him. And everyone read their victim impact statements, and it was so emotional. And then they let him read his. And it was something to the effect of, we never know how much time we have. Like our card could get pulled at any time, and we just is what it is. And it's like,
this is the killer saying this. Let's
this
be clear.
isn't just what it is. You fired into the car and you killed her. You killed this like beautiful young woman, and you
killed your daughter.
And you almost hit your baby daughter. And it sticks with me. Like, I've been trying to put this episode together for about a year, but I just like want to do it justice. I like desperately want to do it justice. And I have a picture of her daughter. Her daughter's name is Valentina. And I keep the picture next to our silver button. And yeah, that's my story. Sorry, I'm going to get emotional about it.
No, you're fine.
I'm sure all of us in this room have watched a plethora of court footage.
Yes.
But to be in that courtroom during a murder sentencing with the family, and especially, I won't give too much away, but justice was not served, in my opinion. And to be with the family when they are given that bad news, it's something that nobody will ever be able to truly understand. Even being right there with the family, being next to them, talking with them, seeing the look on their faces, I will never be able to completely understand. But I have a much better understanding compared to just watching at home or watching online or anything like that. It is a completely different experience. And Jurgi and I were changed from that for sure.
Real quick, joining us now, Johnny from Morbid Curiosity. Johnny, thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Can you hear me?
Yep, sound all right. So we're just kind of going around the circle and talking about stories where either cases you were working on or post video publishing, where something about the story or someone involved in the story might have contacted you for better or ill, and what that was like. And I think, Drew, you had a story of your own or something separate?
I guess to piggyback off of what Jurgi said a little bit, this was a family that came to us. I think there's this belief in the true crime community, for listeners anyways, or people that criticize true crime, is that a lot of these families don't want coverage. And from our experience, that is not true.
Okay.
I get several a month from victims' families that either want coverage or are looking for resources. And if I had not done this, if I had not started on this journey, let's say, to be a true crime content creator, I would have had no reason to believe otherwise. If I hadn't interacted with these families, I wouldn't have had any idea that so many families are looking for coverage, either because there's nothing in their local news outlets, or if there is, there's a blurb. Jurgi and I are used to this around here because we've been somewhat close to a couple murders, and whenever they take place here in our home state of Maine, it's just like a paragraph in our local paper. That's it. And one of the reasons why we started this channel was a case. It was the murder of Christiana Fesmeyer that took place at our work. And that case specifically, our local newspaper basically slandered her in the paper and made the victim seem in such a poor light, basically referring to her as just a prostitute and things like that. And she was just so much more than that. I have now seen this nationwide when I hear these family stories. And I realize that what we are doing is helping so many people, not just raise awareness, but helping families find closure. Now, obviously, not all families are going to want coverage, and I think we should respect that. However, I don't think that, like, for people that want, all true crime should be canceled, it should all go away, you're now taking away an avenue that so many victims' families are searching for. And I never would have known that until we started covering these cases. As far as like having you were going to say something, Scribe?
Oh, no, go ahead.
As far as posting an episode and having somebody from a victim's family leave a comment afterwards, like your story was, that's happened countless numbers of times. Even just something as small as, whoa, this took place in my hometown and I live here currently and I had no idea it happened. My local paper had nothing about that. And not only is that surprising to me, it shows me that what goes on in our hometown when murder happens, it might be a thing that is more common nationwide or worldwide even. So yeah, I could go on about like it's almost commonplace now for people to say, oh, I knew the murderer or I knew the victim. But these days we're most often in contact with some person of the victim's family or a friend of the family or something like that.
Yeah, I'd imagine that my experience was relatively tame compared to your guys's, but it was just my first sort of brush with having that gap closed between the story and myself. Kamran, what comes to your mind when that subject comes up?
Well, I don't have anything as dramatic as what just been told, but see, for me, when I'm covering these crimes, the actual information is important. Gossip, inference, leave that to the wayside. So actually, like Jurgi did that time, for a lot of my cases, the local ones, I'll go down to the courthouse, gather the documents, and find out what actually happened. Primary source information. So a famous case that happened nearby was the Megan Hagen case, where she murdered her sister and her mother, 2017-ish, literally like 10 minutes down the road from me. And in that case, the sister contacted me after saying, thank you for the video. You got all the information correct. But can you give me some of the information? So I kind of had to verify that is the sister. And she's the one that told me that Megan Hagen actually, initially she was found guilty, but because one of the jurors turned out to be one of her cousins or whatever, she got a retrial and then she was sentenced again. So that's a small indication of someone coming to me and essentially thanking me for the video, because nobody else, aside from I think Law Network and these other channels, nobody else covered it the way I did. Another one that I did local to me. So obviously I'm Pakistani. A lot of people where I live, just outside of Washington, D.C., they are of Afghan origin. And in 2010, there was a girl known as Humaira, and she was murdered by her boyfriend at the time, ex-boyfriend at the time, whatever you want to call it. Now, when I went to the courthouse and gathered those documents, I was very careful about what I was going to say, because I know how Pakistani and Afghan people are. I know how sensitive they are. But I really, really wanted to not ridicule, but bring it home that her boyfriend was a piece of shit. I mean, you murder the girl, you shoot her simply
Sure.
because she doesn't want to be with you anymore. I mean, can you get more cowardly than that? And I'm the kind of person where, like, if I got something on my mind, I'm gonna say it. So when I made this video, only after did I realize with my friends, a lot of them knew the girl because they don't really watch true crime, so they didn't really discuss it with me. But they knew the girl, they knew the family because they're Afghan themselves, and it's a tight knit community, and everybody knows everyone, etc., etc. And then the girl's sister and the cousin, like I was out one time, and they were like, "Oh, you're the one that made a video," and I was like, "Oh shit, here we go." But no, they were thanking me that I was respectful to her, which is the most important thing. But then I called out the perpetrator for what he actually was, obsessive. And because I know the culture quite well, I can figure out his state of mind and what he was like. Just possessive, jealous, overbearing. He didn't want to be in control. He wanted to be controlling, and the two different things, right? So generally have had positive experiences. A couple of times people have contacted me saying, "I don't like that video, take it down." I take it down, you know. So
Right.
yeah, there you go.
All right. Johnny, first, before I start, just want to congratulate you both on your recovery and on your engagement.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. So nice of you. Thank you. Golf claps. Golf claps.
Oh, your sound's going a bit wonky there for a second.
Hold on. Is that better?
That's much better. There you
All right,
go.
Great.
So when you hear the idea of like some part of the true story visiting your doorstep, what comes to mind, if anything?
I think the most apt story that I can give you that applies towards this is, I think it was my first video I ever made in true crime, or my first video. It's my first real episode of Morbid Curiosity, which was years before the channel even started. And when I was in college, I worked at a Sprint cell phone store. And it was like next to the main campus for my university, Texas State University. And, you know, I've been working at Sprint for a few years. I was about to graduate, and there was a Chipotle right next to my work. And I would go over to Chipotle on a very regular basis. And I would always, you know, get my burrito. And there's always a girl there that I would talk to because obviously, you know, she works there. I work at the other place. And I always remember thinking, you know, wow, this girl's really pretty. And she had a really nice necklace. I remember it was like a teardrop necklace. And I graduated in May of 2013. And in June of 2013, I believe, I come across a story where this girl was killed by her boyfriend, who also killed her new boyfriend. And then this guy drove off a cliff, basically. And I think he shot himself in the head while he was driving off the cliff, I believe. And so that was the closest that I've been to, you know, something directly in my personal life, right? Because it was just kind of crazy. Like, let's call a spade here, right? Like, I'm not just saying, oh, I thought she was really pretty and yada, yada, yada. Like, I wanted to pursue something with her, right? So in my head, I'm thinking like, oh, wow, what if things had gone a little bit better for me in that one scenario, then I could potentially have been the third person in that triangle.
Right.
That was pretty crazy. And then it escalated a little bit more when both, and this is on my first channel, where I think I had maybe 5,000 views on this video, and the families of both the victim and the perpetrator were in the comments arguing with each other and yelling at me.
Wowzers.
And I mean, that's the closest that I've gotten to, like, you know, a one-on-one with, you know, a case itself. I have another one where I talked to the sister of the perpetrator. But that's really kind of it. For the most part, I don't think I really do a lot of cases that don't have some sort of media coverage in general. So I think as a whole, the victims' families tend to kind of have their stuff kind of out in the air already by the time I tell my spin on the case. But yeah, as a whole, you know, to touch on what Cam was saying, you know, I try not to get too personal with my thoughts and opinions, but now I'm kind of letting loose on, you know, when when something's happening and you've got the conviction already, maybe not, you haven't told them in the video yet, but the conviction is done, they've got a confession, everything is there, everything's lined up. Like, I have no problem lambasting a convicted criminal. Like, if you're going over there killing your wife or kids or doing whatever, or your girlfriend who doesn't want to be with you, like, that is the most, like, 2 IQ, 0 testosterone, like, you're worthless. Like, if you can't manage a relationship with somebody, like a partner like that, and you respond to some sort of incitement towards you with violence and murder, like, you're a piece of shit. Like, you don't really belong with the rest of society, and you belong in prison, or whatever else it wants to take, wherever else it wants to take you. But yeah, I hope does that answer your question?
Oh, sure. No, like, as I say, this is very, very open-ended, but yeah, I've noticed a lot of styles in true crime where you have like pure journalistic, and then you have more conversational. I think of like something between like Explores With Us or Jim Can't Swim versus That Chapter, where you're like you're hearing a reporter versus listening to a friend tell you a story, kind of thing, and trying to keep that emotional detachment from something as terrible as what you're having to report on. I've spoken to I think several of my previous guests on how you maintain that, or what the effects are of trying to maintain that over time. But I got thunder and light going on over here, guys. I might, it's just a matter of timing. I picked tonight of all nights to set things up. Fingers crossed. If I disappear past his prologue, usually my power around here, when it does go off, it doesn't stay off long. But if I vanish, I'm leaving it to Dave's Lemonade to moderate while I'm gone. I'm just going to say. And with that warning, Dave, what comes to your mind when you think about the reality of the story visiting itself upon your real life?
Well, while I was listening to you all give your stories, I had this thought, which I think what we're all doing in the true crime community, I do think it's a really beautiful thing. And the reason is because for the longest time, I imagine that case coverage would be just from news outlets or documentary crews. And then all of a sudden you have all of these people come along that are interested in true crime for whatever reason they might be interested, that we all come together for our own reasons. And we start working on these cases. And over time, we build a catalog of videos, and viewers come in and they select their favorite creators that they watch, and viewers sort of form a bond with the creator in a sense. So we get the viewer gets an idea of who the creator is and what sort of person they are. And I think that what we're seeing with all of everyone's stories here is that there's a level of trust that is formed, and there's a level of like you said, Scribe, like we're a friend almost telling the story. And I think it's a really beautiful thing when members from the victim's family feel comfortable enough to reach out and say that, hey, we got that right, or you got that right. Or like in Yogi and Drew's case, like even asked to come to the trial. Like that's an unbelievable story where I think it really shows the character of you guys. And a lot of us get criticized, oh, you're just doing this for money, or you're just interested in money and you're telling these horrible stories to make money. But I would say 90% of us, I don't know, I don't have the statistics, but most of us are not doing it for money. Most of us are doing it because we have a genuine interest in the stories that we cover. And actually going to the trial and spending time with the family, that really shows your character. It's that was the thought that I was having while I was listening. But my story, I would say, is obviously not dramatic. I'm in Australia, so majority of the cases I cover are from mostly America. I have done 2 videos, and the victims were people that I knew. But interesting enough, I haven't had anyone reach out to me. Well, one of the victims, his entire family killed themselves after they lost their son. So I guess there's no one there to. Yeah, that's a traumatic one. But the story that I guess comes to mind is this case I covered. It was also one of my first ones. The perpetrator, his name is Bestman Okafor, and he shot and killed, or he shot 3 young teenagers point blank. 2 of them survived and 1 of them died. And so I put all of this research together. I put all of the facts together as best I could. And following the release of that video, Alex Zaldivar is the boy who died. His father would reach out to me, and same story. He expressed gratitude for the video. He expressed gratitude for the way that I handled the death of his son. But he was very angry because the criminal received a death sentence, but I can't remember the exact reasoning, but I think the jury was 11-1. So 11 people said he should get the death sentence and 1 person said no. And at the time, they needed all jury members to agree on the death penalty. So his conviction got overturned, and Raphael is the man's name, has been fighting ever since for him to get a retrial with another death penalty on the table. And so he was saying to me that when he got a new legal team that was working on this, they actually used my video quite a lot and referenced it. And he used the video to catch the new legal team up on the case, which I found very flattering. And interesting enough, Bestman Okafor just got, I was looking into it just before we jumped on, he just got reconvicted, and the judge is deciding again whether he's going to get the death penalty. She said that she'll make her decision in about 8 days from now. So Raphael's reached out to me and said he hopes I make another video, and I probably will. But yeah, I sent him a message usually every Christmas, every Easter. I tell him, I'm thinking of you guys and your son. I hope everything's okay. It's that's my story. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of your stories bring up something that was brought up a couple of years ago now, and that's the notion of ethical true crime. I don't know if you've heard of this phrase before, but this came up most prominently after the Dahmer series on Netflix, where you had a show that either intentionally or unintentionally ended up sexifying the serial killer, and at least by some complaints, reduced the details and impact of the victims. And I've noticed in a lot of true crime, not so much recently, it's changed quite a bit, it feels like. And I know that several people here make a point otherwise, but would talk very extensively about the criminal and their crimes, and the victims themselves would end up almost being an afterthought. I was curious, and I'll go back around the circle again. How important is it to you, and how much time do you feel you spend profiling the victims in your work as compared to the killer? Because it would give a full... I imagine, knowing your guys' work as I do, I know this is a fairly softball question, but just for the sake of the audience, if nothing else, how much time do you dedicate to that? And what is the toll of having to tell those stories as compared to the perpetrator, let's say? Drewby?
Jurgi, if we could bounce off each other for this one, because I think
Sure.
ours is pretty unique. I did want to say something first that sort of ties in to piggyback off what Dave said. First of all,
Sure.
Dave, thank you for the kind words that you said about us. And furthermore, the whole, hey, do we do this for the money or not? If I was doing this for the money, I would probably choose a different niche that 50% of my videos weren't demonetized. I'm sure y'all have similar situations with that, but a lot of people think we're making truckloads of money, when in reality, YouTube likes to pull the money out from a lot of these videos and keep 100% of the ad revenue. Anyways, as far as the victim being victim-centric, when doing child cases, which is the majority of what is requested of us, it is very hard to find stuff about the victim, and we have to really, really try. And there's a number of reasons for that. One, because if somebody kills a child, most often the perpetrator is one of their parents, or it could be a foster parent, could be a step parent, but a parent. And so who's going to know that child the best? Unfortunately, their murderer.
Right.
So oftentimes we don't know who the child was. There's very little information. We have to look through the parents or relatives' Facebook profile that talked about the victim. We have to talk to a extended family member, somebody that might have had contact with the child. And the other problem there is a lot of parents that kill their children might hide their children from the world, won't let other people see them, won't let them, into the outside world, so other people don't get to know that child.
Right.
So we can spend hours trying to find out who this child was and only get a paragraph. And not only that, it's a child. They didn't even get to really understand life yet. Like, they didn't even have a chance at it. They didn't even have a chance to really figure out who they were. So in trying to make things victim-centric about the child, it is a struggle, and it's painful. It's really painful because you want to do this person justice. And even with all the tools available, you can't, because nobody recorded it. And they themselves didn't get a chance to even know who they were.
Yeah, on your videos, oftentimes I hear you saying, this 3-year-old, they love bubble guppies and coloring, and that's effectively all you know. And that it reminds me of this old, what was it, like a 5-word story or something? It was baby shoes never used. Like, or for sale, baby shoes never used. And just the absence of information makes a much greater impact on the enormity of the loss when you report things like that. It just, I know we talked about this when I talked to you guys previously, but still, it just, every time that I hear something like that, it just like a punch to the gut.
Yeah,
we have a case that's coming up Monday. The same thing happens. The grandmother had an Easter dress that she had just bought for her granddaughter that she never got to wear. And a lot of the information for cases, when getting just getting the information about like child victims, I'm getting it from their obituary. I'm getting it from any GoFundMe's that come up that, family has put up. Like the case that we recorded today, all we know is that she loves smooth jazz, Hall's cough drops, pink and purple, and her aunt's cat. That's like really all that's known about what this child liked. Because
sorry, I laughed this then because it's just so cute and innocent, and yet, and then that my immediate reaction afterwards is like, this snuffed out. It's oh God.
Because normally when you hear that a child, this child loves Hall's cough drops and their aunt's cat, that makes you smile because you can see like a child, innocent as can be, enjoying that. But then you realize, oh wait, we're talking about a child who was murdered. Yeah. So I think your reaction is completely understandable and normal.
And the really upsetting thing about that, because I really want to be victim-centric, especially with children, a comment that comes up quite a bit is, why don't I get to the point?
Right.
Because there's some sickos out there who just want to hear about like a child being killed and want me to rush to it.
Right.
And I'm not.
Yeah, there is definitely some sickos out there like that. One thing I was going to say on that as well is that with child victims, they, although everything that Druby said in regards to there's just not that information out there about them, that's absolutely true. But there's something with children that we all deeply know and understand is, although they haven't had the opportunity to move forward in their life and figure out who they are, at the same time, they haven't had that opportunity to do crappy things, right? Like, so someone who's 30 years old, they might have made a ton of bad choices in their life, and then they wind up the victim of a crime, and then there's all of this opportunity for people to dig into that victim and say, oh, okay, yeah, well, even though he was or she was murdered, look at what they did in their past. But what we deeply understand about children is that they are truly innocent. They might lie, they might, be difficult, but they haven't had the opportunity to do anything truly bad. And that, so even though there's that lack of backstory or that lack of information on who they are, I think it's so horrific when it comes to child victims, because I mean, most of us, I imagine, I like to believe, we understand that this is truly an innocent person. They haven't had that opportunity to be crappy yet.
Kamran, I know you're in a somewhat unique position as you're a father. And when you do stories regarding children, I'm not quite even sure what to ask. Like, how does that hit you in a particular way differently, you think, than before you had children?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why I'm always swearing and effing and blinding in my videos. I mean,
That's the other thing too.
How else can you react? But to this question of ethics, there's two aspects of this. So,
sure,
as Drew mentioned, when we create a video, we have to send it to YouTube for them to approve whether it's good enough for advertisers. Many times they say no. So we do what we can. We send it back, and a lot of the times they'll say no. And in those cases, I'll release the video anyway, because at some point you're like, yes, it'd be nice to be compensated for this, but the victim's story far outweighs any monetary gain that I can get from this.
Right.
Dave said there's 90%. It was an off comment he made, but he said he'd like to think 90% of the true crime community are not profit orientated. Well, I certainly know some that are, and I would hate to ever be like that, because I am a father. I do have 2 children. And like, for example, there was a case where her name was Carmela. She threw her grandmother off, at the mall where you get the parking lot.
Yes.
And each mall has like different floors. She threw her off the top. And Drew and Yergi mentioned how there's not much information on the victim, and there wasn't. So I went to the mall myself. I went to the very location where she threw her granddaughter off, and how they mentioned when Yergi was in the courtroom and the guy walked by. I'll never know what that feels like, because when you're in the room, you feel the energy. It's just different. So when I went to the car park, and I've been to that mall many times, it just felt different,
Right.
And this was one of the early videos I did, and it hit me then that, wow, like my son at the time was maybe like 2.5, the prime age before he learned how to yell back, and I was like, I just had this image in my head. What if that was him? What if that was him?
Right.
What would I do? So, in terms of ethics, as a father, I see children in a completely different light. So when I hear about there's this crime I just covered where the mother, she cut off the feet and the hands of her child.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? Like, when you're in that moment, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So as I'm reading this, I'm thinking, because I read a lot of philosophy, I read a lot of psychology. So I try to understand, all right, let's forget what happened. Let's try and understand why you did this before we can conclude on how to tell this story. What made you do this? And it could be money, it could be jealousy, it could be rage. I think I read a stat that 80% of the perpetrators either know the victim or they're related to the victim.
Sure.
Right? So to tie it to the Jeffrey Dahmer documentary, I didn't watch it because I know the story inside out. But I feel like sometimes, I think one of the reasons why I do give a lot of my own personal opinion, I think more than most people, is because I'm trying to relate to the audience. If this was just purely a monetary endeavor for me, then I'd have a much bigger studio. I'd have a whole team full of editors who know algorithms much better than I do. But first and foremost, the victim's story must be told, So
motives and monetization is something that I want to hopefully cover in a future talk, more focused, because that is there be dragons in some subjects that can be talked about with that. So I'm happy if you guys want to delve into it here, but just to let you know, at some point I'm hoping to do something much more central to that. Johnny, I know a lot of your videos really go in depth on the victims. How much of a burden is that to you psychologically as you do this stuff and tell their stories?
So it's actually, for me specifically, it's a lot more than I think some of my peers and some of my friends. When I first started, when I first started making videos, the primary reason was because I thought I could do it better than the other people that were doing it at the time.
Right.
And that chapter, Maiko, he's like one of my favorite true crime creators. I've binged all of his stuff, but I can't remember the video, but something was going on and he was talking about the victim and then he made a joke. And I was like, that doesn't mesh with what I'm like soaking in. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean like I was offended or I dislike that chapter. Like if you look at my splash screen and it's the little explosion of smoke, where do you think that comes from? Obviously I copied Mike. So like, I love that. But at the same time, I thought there was a certain way of doing these videos that was missing at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it upon myself to do that. Now the impact that it had on me in the beginning was way, way, way more than I originally anticipated because, sometimes when I dive in a little bit too deep, there was a period of time where my videos were taking like, a month to 2 months and I'm like grinding as much as possible to learn as much as possible, to include as much as possible. Hang on one second. Let me close Discord. So, there is an impact that it has, and it can be a bigger toll for some creators than you think, but in the grand scheme of things, I think it's worth it to tell the story in your own way. If you can do it with respect to the victim and their families, and if you can do it without, we're talking about sexualizing Jeffrey Dahmer or sexualizing the killer. Like, there's a reason why South Park had an episode called Informative Murder Porn, right? There's a reason why, people watch true crime. And it's because there is in every single, person, there is a little bit of that. I hate to do this. There's a little bit of that morbid curiosity where you want to learn about this. You want to know about this.
Right.
And
right.
there's a way to do that without, doing it with bloodlust, right? You can do it without, his brains were splattered and it was like a pink, like you don't have to get into the details of that. You can just, refer to certain things without, giving in to some of these people who were just, craving for the gut-wrenching parts of it.
Yeah, there's a difference between telling a story and making a shockumentary or something. And I know, from my brief experience in trying to do true crime, I was so scared of injecting my own commentary because even though it was still abstract, I knew I was treading on ground I didn't belong, if that makes any sense, and that I wasn't in a position to like make some kind of like grand statement upon. Little bits here and there of like sarcasm when something would come up within the narrative or the articles and such, but I was very wary of trying to get too personal with it. I think both for respect for the events and that not to make it about me, if that makes any sense, but also to avoid trivializing anything, because even if it wasn't happening to me, I at least had an understanding this is a terrible thing that happened. And if I did have any commentary, I'd try to save it for like the end and sort of like I hate to put it this way, but it's always how I kind of thought of it, like a Jerry Springer wrap up kind of little speech kind of deal to sort of like keep it separate. And I know that Dave does that very explicitly in his videos where he does all of his, well, I mean, I'm speaking for you, Dave, but I mean, just one of the elements that makes me think of it is just you stop about 3/4 of the way through your video and say, I'll now be engaging in commentary of my own on this in order to sort of give a breaker between, reporting and editorializing. And I always appreciate that you're like, okay, well, just so you know, this is now me talking rather than me relaying the events. But that trend, I think, has been picking up a lot more in the last several years, where it's gone less from shockumentary and people are giving equal and sometimes more time to describing the tragedy of the victims and not just glorifying the villain, for lack of a better phrase.
Agreed.
Yeah. So follow-up, that I wanted to ask too, and I'll go in reverse order this time, I think. As you've had these experiences, both in stories sort of crossing your threshold, or having to really dive into the details of the victims, how, if in any particular way, has that changed your process as your channel has developed? Johnny?
Can you say that again? So the more that we learn about the victim, how is that?
Well, I mean, so like as you built your channel, as you started making more videos and you found your own voice, and as these stories came closer to home in some way, whether it was literally like a victim or a family contacted you, or you getting to know the individuals involved in the story as you did your research, as maybe I'm being too abstract, but as you had those experiences, did it how, if at all, did it inform or change the way you scripted or approached your material over time? Because I really don't want to make this more complicated than VCR instructions, but
so basically you're asking, as I look into a case, how
Yeah.
does the story that I'm going to tell change itself as I continue to learn and develop?
No, well, as a true crime content creator, how has your process changed the more that you've delved into these things? Is that better? Sorry, I'm
right. I understand. My process is to be frank. There's a reason why sometimes my videos take a little bit longer, and that's because I don't think going into a lot of these cases with a thorough, in and out, method that I don't like to look at a case formulaically, because I don't think there's really any case out there where the exact same things have happened and the exact same information is available. So maybe in one case, I'm just gonna, theoretically talk about some made up case. But let's say there's a case where something happens and it's, sunset and the family was barbecuing, right? Maybe that specific case, I can start by telling the story at this amazingly beautiful time in their lives where they're, doing something over there. And then, the case or the story plays out from there. Or maybe some cases I start where they're in the interrogation room, or some cases I start where the law enforcement officers happen upon the scene of a crime. So my process, I think the more that I continue to do this, my process continues to become a little bit more fluid and a little bit more free to creativity, because I think that I can make something that is specifically honed in for a case based on the information that I have available and the information I've been able to source or scrounge. And yeah, so I would say that's probably that's definitely going to be my answer for that. And you can tell, because if you look at a video from 6 months ago to last month to, a year and a half ago, you're not going to get the same experience.
Yeah. And I appreciate people in the genre who, when I watch their stuff, I don't feel like I'm just watching a cookie cutter presentation, like A, B, C, D done. And that there is some care and some artistry put into it, at least. And so I don't feel like it's just, uncommented interrogation footage bookended by some Wikipedia readings of events, that kind of thing,
Exactly.
which used to be like the early days of the Jimpersonators. Dave, how do you think your work style or storytelling has evolved as you've had these? Uh-oh. Who's that?
He's going nuts over here. Sorry.
Hey, relax.
Sorry. That might happen a few times.
Okay.
It's a good question. I think that, before I started making true crime documentaries, I worked in the field of documentary, and I've been in the film industry to some degree or another for the better part of my 20s. I'm 36 now, so I've been doing it for a long time. And what I learned in documentary making was that there is no cookie cutter formula. There's no way to do it. I mean, you can, but you're not going to make an interesting documentary. The best way to make a documentary is to get out of the way and let the story tell itself. And I think based on what I've seen of everyone here and their work, whether you have all studied documentary making or not, you all do it very well. It's this dance between letting the story tell itself, and then you inject, to whatever degree, a part of your personality, so that the viewer has someone's narrative to latch onto as they watch this story unfold. Otherwise, it's going to be boring, because you're just watching facts be presented and there's no human driving factor behind that. So for me, over the course of making my videos, I wouldn't say that I've had much technical development from each video, because my philosophy to making videos has always been the same. What has developed is the way that I emotionally approach each case, because I was not expecting how hard some of these cases would hit. And I know that over the course of each video that I make, each story that I work on, there is always another lesson that I take on board emotionally. And to give you an example of what I mean, the most recent video that I'm working on is, I'm sure you've all heard of it, and I know that some of you have made videos, is the Shander van der Ark case.
Yes.
And so the boy the victim, 15-year-old Timothy, he's high support needs, autism, sensory processing disorder. And my most recent ex-girlfriend, who's still a very close friend of mine, she is high functioning autistic. She has sensory processing disorder. And there's a lot of similarities, I suppose, crossover. I can see from how Timothy's behavior was and how her behavior is, and what I know of her childhood from what she's told me. And when I first met her, there was a lot of miscommunications. I've never tried to get close to someone with high support needs, and there was a lot of miscommunications. And even times I was very frustrated in how some of our communications would spiral downwards into this pit of no one understanding what's actually going on. So as I work on this Shander video, I'm seeing that occur, and I'm seeing the mother delve further and further into this side of sadism rather than understanding.
Yes.
And it's hitting me hard. It's really hitting me hard, and I can't really put it into words. I guess I haven't really fully processed why and why that is, but it's making me look at the world a little differently, and it's making me feel something that I wasn't feeling before I started working on this case. And so once this video is over, and sorry, once this video is over and the time passes and I think back to it, and I'll have a better understanding of how it made me feel in time, and I'll have a better understanding of what I actually took from it. When I choose to work on another video, there will be some lesson that I take from that and apply it to the new one. And mostly it's to, I don't know if this sounds selfish, but mostly it's to protect myself.
Sure.
But I'm sure you all do it. I'm sure everyone here does it, because, Cam, you're a father, and you said that you get very angry and you swear and you curse. And Jörg and Druby, you guys are putting yourselves on the emotional front line, getting invested, going to trials. Jonah, you're saying that it takes you sometimes months to, back in the day at least, to make a video, and that takes a toll when you dive in. So we all have this process of, we're humans, and there's only so much of this stuff that we can process and take in at any given time. And I think from every video, I learn how to manage that a little bit better. So
okay,
that's my answer.
Let's see. I'm going to jump a little bit. Jörg, you said you had a story that fit into this. in the chat. Sorry.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily to this, but when you were talking about like monetization and stuff, that was what it's more about. I can go into it if you want to.
Oh,
Or
sure.
if you want
Go
to
ahead.
save it for next time, it's totally up to
Or
you.
I'm fine with either.
Well, if you think it'd be more appropriate there when we focus on like monetization and things like that.
Yeah,
or
let's do that because it's an interesting story.
Okay, put a pin in that one then.
Yeah.
Well then, to the two of you then, as you've worked on these very emotionally charged cases, especially in dealing with child victims, how has, and I apologize if I asked this question of you in the last time we talked, because maybe I did, but how has your process in approaching the information or the stories changed? I guess building off of what Dave said, to both tell the story but also give yourself some, I don't want to say psychological distance, but maybe a bit more protection as you go through it. Are there like tricks you use or ways that you approach the information now to make it a more, I feel weird saying a healthier experience, but maybe you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, this might be a multi-part answer. And I think you asked something similar last time, but I totally think it's good that you asked this again, because one, there could be different people watching. And I think this bears repeating, even with the subject matter, is that when we started doing child cases initially was at a time where we were operating 100% off of viewer request. You know, this is your show as much as it's ours. Send us in what you want to do. And we got sent in a kid case. And I was like, you know, I've been consuming true crime since I was a preteen. Never really heard much about these. Sure, we can do one. And we did one. And then another came in, and then another, and then another, and then another. And then what I started to notice trends, especially in the smaller ones. The high profile cases, the ones that made national news, might have some certain iniquities about them, but the smaller ones all look the same. Things that I never realized. I was raised in the stranger danger area that, you know, there's all these people in, you know, panel vans driving around waiting to snatch you off the streets, or, you know, if you stray too far from your parents in the supermarket, these people who are just posted up there are going to snatch you off and carry you away. You know, that's what I grew up thinking. That's what I grew up told. So when I found out that, like, oh, the person most likely to kill a child is their parent or a close relative, that was difficult. And then not only that, the ways in which CPS can just absolutely mangle the whole situation to prevent this child from getting to safety is a whole nother thing. Not many people have said this to us. I think I can count on one hand, but they're like, hey, all these stories kind of sound the same. Bingo. Yeah. Bingo. And that's the fucking problem. That's the fucking problem. Like, it shouldn't be like that. If there is a trend, we have enough data to fix that trend. You know, these things should be outliers. And yes, like a child dying is not something you walk down the street and see it every day, but this is happening enough that this should be a cause for alarm. And most people don't even realize this happens to the extent that it does, and the problems and the systemic issues contributing to it. I think I went off on a different direction than what you asked.
It's okay. I can follow up on where we're supposed to go.
Yeah. Please get this back on track, Jurgi.
Yes. How our process has changed. Back in the day, before we were really, really deeply handling CPS failure cases, we were more podcasty. We weren't on screen. We had a very loose script. We ping-ponged back and forth next to each other. And then we would have some like banter going back and forth. Well, once you start getting into more serious cases, like that's just not appropriate. So it became more scripted, more streamlined. We had less conjecture in there, unless it was me just saying something terrible about a killer, which I enjoy doing. And above and beyond that, we had to start scripting it more because I ended up with Lyme disease. So it's very hard for me now to just talk off the cuff. I'm trying very hard to talk slowly because it does cause some like neurological stuff. So we had to end up going completely scripted like that. So I'm not umming and ahhing and liking and blanking off into oblivion. So that's kind of how it's changed for us.
Oh,
Okay.
this was what the point I was getting to.
Mhm.
The in doing child cases, there was a lot of things I didn't realize. Like I had a lot of ideas about the world that were shattered by all this. So that in itself, I had to kind of come to terms with what reality is and to develop coping skills that what I believed in the way the world worked all my life up until like my late 20s, early 30s was a lie. You know, that is a process in itself. So coming to terms with that, and then being very good about leaving that work at, like, leaving it at the door. You know, when it's done, it's hard to just flip a switch and be done with it. But being good about, okay, we're done. I'm gonna go for a walk now. You know, I'm gonna go see my family. I'm gonna go hang out with my cats. I'm gonna do something to chill. I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm going to do something to further, like, give myself some distance from it.
Yeah, you need an escape hatch. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, having a social circle, having healthy habits, like as lame as that sounds, is very good in making sure that we can show up week after week and do this. And also hearing from victims' families and people, like somebody just a couple days ago said to me, "Hey, it's because of you I reached out to CPS and got one of my relatives out from an abusive household."
Nice.
Like it got me to the point where I was brave enough to make that call. Like we've been told that like a number of times, and so that gives you a sense of purpose. You know, when we're able to raise money for GoFundMe's or victims' families that aren't getting what they need to just bury their child or give them a headstone, like I feel like there's purpose behind this. There's actually a good thing. It's not just us, you know, putting our faces on screen and on YouTube just for the hell of it. So that purpose makes it is a coping mechanism in itself as well. I hope that answers your question about coping mechanisms and putting space
Sure.
you in the material.
No, it's like I say, I'm here just to moderate whatever comes up in your guys' minds.
I can, if there was something I blanked on or
No,
skipped over, by all means, I'm happy to elaborate. Yeah, okay.
No, you got nothing to apologize for. You're fine.
If I can ask you all a question, if you don't mind.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So before, I'm assuming all of us have been fans of true crime before we got into creating it, right? So
Yes.
it wasn't really like a surprise to me that these terrible things happen in the world. But tell me if y'all are the same. But now my view of the world is totally different, right? And that doesn't mean I'm like scared of people. Like I'm not, you know, a shut in or something like that. Like I still have the best. I expect the best from the people. I don't expect to get, you know, stabbed violently in the alley or anything. But the reality is that happens constantly, and like it's probably happening within a mile of me, right? I live in Dallas. So did that affect y'all at all to realize like, okay, like maybe you're looking at your cases and you see you've got, oh, you know, here's 100 cases in this state from this week that you could potentially cover. And it's like, wow. And you've looked into these cases before. Do you see how in depth and like what kind of things happen? And these amazingly tragic things are happening everywhere in every corner of not only the United States, but the world as a whole. Have y'all had the same kind of like change in perception of what the life is, what life we're actually living?
Once Pandora's box has been opened, can you really close it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very interesting question, and I think my answer might surprise some people. So when I got into true crime, I just looked at, oh, this person that did this heinous thing, they're sick in the head, they're nuts, they're evil, you know, they're an outlier. And now, as an adult and realizing, hey, evil walks among us, you know, and evil doesn't look like anything at all, really. You're used to serial killers looking a certain way, or killers in movies looking like, you know, some deranged individual. And quite often people who murder look like normal people. Despite all of that, I, in my teen years, was more nihilistic. And now at this stage in life, I feel like most people are generally good, like at their core of themselves. And and you would wonder, why would that be my conclusion covering murder so much? I think it's from interacting with either the victim's family or people who were close to the case, or maybe they were a first responder or something like that. Somebody that was trying to either fix the situation or stop it before it happened or pick up the pieces after it happens. I think those deeds and talking to those people made me think, okay, the average person is actually good. I'm not walking around in fear thinking that everybody's out to get me or get children or anything like that. I mean, obviously, have your wits about you, but this whole experience has made me think more positively about humanity, believe it or not.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, anytime when a violent crime happens, right, it's a matter of exponentially more people on the opposite end trying to get things, back to even, right? Punish the person, heal the victim, take care of, victims' rights, take care of the family, whatever, what have you. I definitely think the good in the world outweighs the bad. I was just kind of saying more like realizing now when you said evil doesn't have a face, like we've all probably done a case where the killer maybe kind of sort of looks like us, right? And it's like, oh, well, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
It's just that the reality of the situation is that, one of my cases that I did, this guy seemed really nice. He was really sad. He had brutally killed his wife, and he was talking about it. And I was like feeling for him during it. He was like, she ripped up my passport. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm working. And she was yelling at me for my vape. And I was like, man, I feel like bad for this guy. Like he reacted in a moment of anger. But then what he did is he's like, committed terrible crimes to her. And as she's exsanguinating in the bathtub, he like plays her favorite song for her. And it's like, I did this for her. It's like, well, you could have called a medic. Like, I don't know. Like it's one of those things where, like, yeah, that's great. And I'm like, it's a fantastic display of humanity that you feel bad for killing your wife. Yeah, you should probably feel bad for killing your wife. But it's the same thing what I was saying before is like, this guy, even after the fact, like he got convicted, he's in prison for the rest of his life. Like, but even after the fact, there's still that shred of humanity, and you can see that there was still nobody take this out of context, but I say there's still a good person in there. I mean, there's still shreds of what was before he did what he did. So it's a strange thing when I'm sure, again, everybody I'm sure has experienced it, but you dive in deeper and deeper, and you notice, oh well, this person was from my hometown. This person liked the same things that I did. And, oh, wow. Maybe they went to my school and now they're doing this or they did this. It's a shock, or at least it was to me. It's a shock to see how much of this is out there and how close a lot of it really could be.
Yeah. I'm always struck by, I guess I've been inundated in this stuff since I was a teenager. I was in the vicinity, let's say in the 80s when the Green River Killer was active.
Oh, wow.
And so you'd see these headlines all the time of a new body was found, a new body was found. And I was such a small kid, I didn't quite understand the enormity of it. And so I've been in one way, shape, or form, interested in this subject basically since my childhood. And I think the most terrifying thing to me at a certain point was just the mundanity of evil. You talk about like finding out just how much of it is out there and everything. It's common. It's not as common as you would hope, but it is. And that's what probably scares me a little bit more. And you talked about kind of feeling sorry for the guy. I'm reminded of how many of Dave's To Catch a Predator videos start off with saying this is just reflective of one particular incident in a person's life and does not necessarily reflect the totality of them because we only see this one little bit. At the same time, though, the fact that it's just so casual, seemingly, or just so, normal for some people to operate this way. Kamran, you've been kind of shunted out in the last couple of rounds.
How dare you? How dare you?
I know. Well, I'm trying to moderate here, make sure everybody gets their time. So I guess I guess it's up to you. How has the revelations of these stories as you've worked on them, how has it changed your process and or combination question here? How has it changed your perspective on the world in general, I suppose, when it comes to this kind of thing, or just walking down the street and knowing what you know versus the average person?
Yes, it's a very good question. So in terms of the process, by the way, I've met Druby and Yergi in person. They're literally the same as you see on screen. So what you see is what you get. And I mean that in the
I
nicest way
figured.
possible.
So somehow I figured. I don't know what it is about them, but somehow.
Yeah,
I
like Druby
appreciate letting everybody know we're not
he
paid
loves a big
actors.
steak.
I do.
Yeah.
He thought I would get the steak well done. No, I got that rare as shit. So
Yeah, I was like, wow, I was impressed. But okay, so like I'll read a crime, and a lot of the times when I see the images, I'll get a feel of the reasoning behind it all. So, for example, in Pakistan, where my family's from, there was a woman. She lit her daughter on fire, and as I was reading through, it was because she wanted to marry someone of whom was of a different ethnicity or whatever. And then I knew straight away why she did what she did.
Mhm.
But when I looked at the woman, like she looks like every other older lady in Pakistan. She's got a bit of a headscarf, wearing the typical Pakistani clothes, just like my mother, just like my grandmother. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, are you like? So I dived into deeper, got a few more of the documents, and so it made me really angry, but also it pissed me off at the same time, because her reasoning was that she would look bad in society, that her daughter would marry someone from X ethnicity or whatever, right? Which is the
Mhm.
dumbest thing you could ever do.
Of
That made me
course.
really angry. But then there's a crime that I'm working on right now where firstly it took place in Birmingham in England. I don't know if you've been to Birmingham, but it's a piece of shit, right? And the what do you call it? So there's two men who hired a lady. So they're in Birmingham. They found some lady in Milwaukee as an assassin contract killer, right? And they flew her over to Birmingham, of all places, right? And then because they had a dispute with some guy who was selling clothes, they got into beef, so they wanted him killed. So those geniuses thought, oh, let me get this random girl. I don't know who she was, but when she tried to kill the guy, the gun, it jammed. Right. And in my mind, I'm thinking, only in fucking Birmingham would you cheap out on a contract killing, you know? But you see how I told the two different stories. There's passion and anger when I read one, but then there's the straight up dumb shit when I read the other. And I think the reason why I found the other a bit more dumb, maybe a bit silly, is because nobody was killed. Thankfully, it was attempted murder, and now that girl ran off back to Milwaukee. She's currently on the run. Right? Nobody quite knows where she is. She keeps telling her friends that she's in contact with on Facebook. It wasn't me, etc., etc. But like I said, because I am Pakistani, I've been around in Birmingham. I can kind of understand like the little nuances that maybe some of you guys won't. Right? Like the reason, like the news reporting says that they had some dispute with this boutique shop owner. In reality, what's going on is that they both own shops. They both sell like what do you want to call it, Middle Eastern clothing. One is doing better than the other, and one is jealous. That's actually what's going on, right? But the news reports it a bit differently. So in terms of my process, and I think that's why sometimes in my video you see me swear or throw in a joke towards the suspect every now and again. It's because it's just the vibe I'm getting from the crime, right?
Well, I almost think it's
but
a
in terms-
pressure. Whenever I hear you do that, I feel like it's a pressure release. Like you're just looking at this insanity or whatever it is, and you just need like a little bit of a psychological, release valve for some of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, like when I look at these two stories that I'm working on in Birmingham, you can't help but think you're a bunch of wankers. There's no other way to describe these people. And I'm surprised in America it hasn't been reported on yet, because it's actually quite this blonde girl is on the run. Somehow she gets mixed in with these two Pakistani guys. What the fuck is going on? But so yeah, that's my process. Like the vibe I get straight away is generally the angle I'll take on how I tell the story. In terms of my worldview, no, I mean, evil has always been part of the world. Good is also part of the world. And we're never going to understand the decisions other people make. So it is what it is,
Yeah.
Florida though is a fucked up state. That's one thing I did.
Yeah.
Oh, no doubt. No, I had a pitch a long time ago. It was a joke on my show, or my old talk show, where I wanted to pitch to Netflix a series called Florida Man, where it's just this anthology of little stories where an evil entity called Florida Man just like infests someone for a story and makes them do something crazy or terrible or whatever, and then it floats off to go to another story, sort of like the very old TV show called The Hitchhiker, which was kind of like that. It was just sort of a Alfred Hitchcock kind of thing. Everything. But anyway, that's a whole other stream for another time. And Netflix, get back to me. Jurgi, you had something you wanted to add regarding the good and evil dynamic.
Yeah, definitely. So, much like Druby, high school, very into serial killers, a bit of an edgelord, and then just then having the situations arise where you're then close to murders. Like, as we've talked about many times, 2 murders happened at our work when I was in my 20s. At the same time, like a friend of mine, we've covered the case, he decapitated his girlfriend and set his apartment on fire. So I started getting really close to these things and they started hitting home. We started the show. And then when you start getting really into the research, because for many years, I was the primary writer and researcher for all of our cases, because I'm just a decent writer. So it starts to build and then get to you, especially when you're starting to do children's cases. And for anybody who has watched any of our material, like pretty recently, it became obvious they were starting to get to me. And at that point, we started having people help me out with that research portion of it. So in terms of like the good and evil, this, unfortunately, I think I'm going to be the outlier here. It's made me more negative of people. Do I walk around thinking that I'm going to get stabbed or shot? I mean, sometimes, like it did happen here. October, we had the big shooting just down the road.
Yeah.
So I do think about things like that when I go to the supermarket. I mean, like there are people in our comments that get concerned about my well-being sometimes. And I do see somebody every Thursday. I'll be like transparent about that to talk about these type of things. And I am getting better with it. But in terms of good and evil, like it really has, like, to be completely transparent with all of you, it's really made me see people in a really crappy light.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's sad.
Well, sorry, to add on to that, one thing it's done for me is it's made me read people better. I'm quite an oblivious person. I very rarely pay attention to what's going on around me, right? Like I'll remember a soccer game from 1990, but when my wife says go get milk and bread 5 minutes ago, I'll completely forget that.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm a very oblivious person. But having analyzed a lot of these suspects, a lot of the times when I'm with my friends and when I'm out, when I meet new people, sometimes you say things, but you mean something else in a normal conversation. And I feel like I'm able to connect the dots better when it just comes to understanding people, So
yeah.
Oh, and another thing, sorry. Jurgi mentioned decapitation. Another thing I realized the depravity of this is because I have kids, my son loves jumping around everywhere, like everywhere. And I realized kids are actually quite durable. Right? Like when he was
made of rubber.
When he was like, I think 1 year old, he accidentally fell off the bed and he was fine 2 minutes later. Right? There's times where like he has a little scooter in the house. He always whacks his foot somewhere, but then he's fine. So I realized kids are durable. So a lot of the times when I see decapitation, I think the level of force required to do this gives you ample time to stop. It's not like cutting an apple, or in Drew's case, a steak, right? It's like you physically have to, like, to strike someone's neck, you have to cut, and keep going. And at any moment you can stop. And the fact that they go through with it, it's like,
well, that makes me think of just recently the Ali Abulaban case. The trial happened and everything, and you just
another dumb motherfucker, by the way. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Oh no.
Such
Beyond
a muppet of epic.
Beyond compare. I'm
had his whole life in front of him. A TikTok star, loved his gaming. The discount Tony Montana that he was had his whole life in front of him, but because his ego got hurt a little bit, oh, my girl is seeing another man. like, you know what, sit your ass in jail, live with that now.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the breakdowns by you guys and like channels like Dreading and others that do these kind of things. But I was just thinking, we were talking about the effort it takes to just, you know, cut off somebody's head. I was thinking about when he was retelling, or in the course of the trial, they're retelling the chain of events leading up to him shooting his wife and her friend. And I'm just reminded that every moment that passes between you're thinking of doing this and doing this is a point of decision. You have a choice not to do this. You have a choice to turn around. Even getting all the way to the apartment building and getting in the elevator, you don't have to get off that elevator. Every one of those things is a choice to proceed, which just condemns somebody in my mind more so than if it's just not to say that a crime of passion or something that happens just in an instant is any better necessarily, but definitely somebody who is proceeding forward in a situation where they're not required to take an action in some way. They're not trying to justify it through self-defense or something else. This is somebody who could have turned around at any point and just stopped it. And yes, every one of these instances is a decision. Now I've gone off track. I've caught the droopy bug. I don't know what to do now.
No, but the Ali Abulaban is actually a good. It's a good point to make, because when I looked at him and I saw that like when he went and killed his wife and then the boyfriend, he walked
Yes.
in. That didn't happen by random. There's obviously a lead up of events that got to that point. Firstly, why she cheated on him in the first place. He had to have been a dickhead for God knows how many years for her to get to that point. I'm not blaming her. I'm saying he must have abused her for her to think he's not for me. I'm gonna leave. I'm sorry. You see what I'm trying to say? There's a chain of events, and the guy had his whole life in front of him, and now
I'm always boggled by
he's
these
true crime
family
suspect.
annihilators. I think that's a whole other subject. But like Chris Watts, Ali Abulaban, Chris Coleman, these guys have like these picture perfect situations where they have oftentimes hardworking wives and beautiful children, and then they're just like, it's not enough. I have to have something more, and it's just anyway. That's a subject for a whole other kettle of fish there. I thought I'd pause for just a moment. We've had several super chats come up, and I wanted to acknowledge those from everybody. And then the generosity of you guys is just incredible. So I hope I can capture some of these in the on screen. I'll do my best, because sometimes these things disappear over time. Apologies, 1 second here. StreamYard is not as accommodating. Keeverdam, thank you so much for the thanks for being you pair. I appreciate it. Can't really be seen on screen there, but I appreciate that. There's some that have disappeared now, so I'm going to go from what I can see on YouTube. Keeverdam, twice before you gave us a smiley, happy dog cat fox and a how's it going dog cat fox, and thusly I'm at least obligated to do this.
Wowee! Wow! Wow!
That is a drunken uncle dog cat fox. I have several dog cat foxes. I'm happy to take recordings from you guys at some point if you want to add a dog cat fox to my stingers. Derek LaRue, no message as usual, but thank you as always for your continued support and generosity. That's ridiculously generous. Miranda Stone says, I love all these creators with $100 donation. Thank you so much, Miranda.
Oh, wow.
And not only that, Miranda followed that up with a $50 donation to say, hi, Yurgi, you look stunning.
Let's
And
go.
Thank you.
Thank
Miranda.
you.
Yeah. So you guys, thank you so much for your generosity. I don't know what to say. And as I always try my best to do, I will pay it forward as best as I can. So we have reached the crossroads where just about everything I had planned to ask has gone by the wayside. So I'm not sure what to say now. And it's all your fault. All of your fault. You burned it all out so quickly. Let's see.
Hey, Scribe, I got an answer to Johnny's question.
Oh, by all means.
And mine is, I guess it's a bit of a joke, I suppose, but it's also kind of horrifying for me. But in terms of the diving into true crime or not, I had a viewpoint of the world that there was a lot of evil out there. And since doing true crime, that hasn't really changed. I do find myself shocked at times in terms of diving into a case, and that affects me emotionally. But overall, my perspective of the world doesn't really change. But there's something that absolutely has changed. So I'm not sure if you all know, but I started out doing Predator commentary videos. So
That's
to catch
how I
Predator.
found you years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're always a good time. And I still do them. Mostly I release them on Patreon now because YouTube has given me a lot of hell with those.
Yep.
But I'm still doing them, right? So I'm reading hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of these predators talking to minors. And, you know, for the most part, they say some pretty nasty stuff. But then at times they say some stuff that is, when you think about who they're talking to, it's nasty. But if you remove that, what they're actually saying looks like a regular conversation. So the framework of their conversation, be they're trying to court someone they're attracted to, or be they trying to connect with someone they're interested in, that framework is there. And there's no explicit words that link the nastiness to that framework. And so because I read so much of these, at times I find myself messaging people, or say if there's someone I'm interested in, I'm messaging him, and then I get this flash of a Predator commentary. And I'm like, oh God, am I a freaking Predator?
Are you taking dating tips from Lauren Armstrong or something now?
No, but that's a good example. So Lauren constantly asks what this other person's thinking. What are you thinking? What did you think about today? What are you thinking? And so say if I'm speaking to someone, I'm like, oh, what are you thinking about? And then I have this moment of like, oh God, just put the phone down.
Oh God. Well, that's a bizarre segue into as Captain Dion said in the chat. I was about to ask if anybody in the chat has questions for my guests. By all means, put them in the chat now. If you tag me in your comment, I will see it a bit more easily in the chat. So that's your time. I did have a sort of general question for everybody. Given the general tenor of the worst cases that you've covered before, maybe one or two of you have previously, but would you consider ever doing stories on non-violent crime, white collar crime, or more sort of maybe silly or like bank robbers or things like that don't end up ever resulting in a body count, as either a palate cleanser or maybe another direction for your style?
Yes.
What would that be then? What would it be?
So we used to do that before it became like kids cases and really serious content. I would look for weird stuff. We did the Unum Claw horse sex case. That was hilarious.
Mr. Hands.
Mr. Hands. Yeah. Oh God, I remember that. Yeah.
That's one of the very few of those episodes back from the older days that has stayed up, that even people who watch nowadays are like, okay, that was pretty good. That was a fun case to do.
Yeah, and then we did just a thing on when they thought the murder hornets were going to come to America.
All
and
right.
like we made dick jokes the whole time. It was hilarious. That was like the best 8-minute episode ever.
Yeah, what a lot of people don't know is that Yergi and I are like pretty funny people, easygoing, lighthearted people in real life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So covering stuff like Murder Hornets or Mr. Hands was just so effortless and easy. Days of being young and naive.
So there was two that I covered that were non-crime related. I don't actually, maybe they were. There was that Amy Carlson one. You guys remember Amy Carlson?
No, which one was that?
No.
She was a cult leader of that.
The mummy lady.
Yeah. Wait.
Yeah, mummy lady. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, she claimed to be God.
Right.
Yes. Even though she was thick as pig shit. And so I covered that. But then
this blue. Oh, yep. Okay. All right.
Yeah, Mother God who drank all the silver and died.
Yes, got the silver. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? Love is something, the name of the group or something. But then there was the other one of
Love is One.
Love is One. That's the one.
Yeah.
There's the other one of a guy called Bhagwan Rajneesh. He was the cult leader.
Yes.
What was the name of the cult again? But
oh geez. Well, there was a documentary. It was Wild something or other on Netflix.
Yes. In Oregon, USA.
Yes.
And again, he did everything he wanted because he just wanted to get laid.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Pretty much.
So I did cover that. But if I was to deviate from actual violent crimes, like I like the financial crisis of 2008 is one of the biggest scandals, and nothing was ever done about it.
No kidding.
One of the biggest crimes in history.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I would cover that kind of stuff. But then that slowly goes into the politics of it. Well, why weren't they charged? How were they allowed to get away with this? So I kind of like I tried covering the who's the kid that shot the self-defense, Scott Rittenhouse, is that his name?
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Kyle
Rittenhouse,
Rittenhouse.
yeah.
Kyle,
I
yeah.
covered that. I saw the comments. I deleted that shit straight away. I was like, I'm not like I'm British. I live in America. I know nothing about the Second Amendment. I'm not getting involved. You know. So
Fair enough.
Johnny, would you cover like more mundane crimes?
Yeah. So for those who don't know, I basically ended the first season of Morbid Curiosity, and season 2 is a little bit more personal, more face cam. And my original intention when I created this channel was, just morbid curiosity, the things that itch you in just that way, right? And the things on the dark side of life that just happen to grab you and, envelop your, every thinking thought. And a lot of those are things that don't involve, these terribly, tragic things that happen to individuals that I cover now. Yeah, definitely. One of the ones I wanted to do was Unit 731. I think is it 731? I believe.
I did my college final on Unit 731.
Really?
That was something.
Dave.
Yeah, I want to do that. Now, granted, that is something violent, but it's not, and it's definitely war crime and crimes against humanity, but it's not not in the same regards. But yeah, there's some plans there. I want to do. Cam had mentioned going to that parking garage and seeing the scene of a incident. I've done that before, but I want to do more on-site stories about things that have happened. Basically, just changing the scope because thinking that the only bad things that happen out there are violent things. It blocks. I think it's good to be pertinent and aware of those things in general, but you're putting blinders on if the only thing that I'm saying, these are the bad things. These are assuming that I'm like talking like an authority, right? We're talking as an authority. There's so many other bad things out there, like financial crimes, like scammers, like any other thing, cults, all these other things that are bad out there. But that is the plan for season 2 and 3.
Yeah, there's a series on, I think was it CNBC or something? It was American Greed that I was obsessed with for years. Not just because Stacy Keach was narrating, but because the stories are just so bizarre to me, and just the embezzlement and the Ponzi schemes and the scams and the fraudsters. I just found that stuff fascinating. And my morbid curiosity was a combination of Green River Killer at the time and Jim Jones People's Temple. Because once I found out that all those tapes are online, oh man, I did a few videos covering some of those sermon tapes that were out there for them.
The final day, or just in general?
Well, there's the final day, but there's a whole there's a website out there. I think it's something like Concerning People's Temple or something, and they've posted at least every one of the 900 tapes they recovered from the suicide site, and they have sermons that he did in Redwoods before they moved down to Guyana, a whole bunch of their crazy, what they called them was white knights down in Guyana, where they do these like drills of their being attacked by the CIA or whatever. There's some crazy stuff there. And but anyway, I'm getting off track. We also lost Dave. I don't know what happened to Dave. I assume Yoshi, his dog, decided to end the show and said, "I'm hungry." So I'm going to go scroll up through the chat here. I don't know that I saw any questions. I guess nobody's curious about you guys. They have no morbid curiosity whatsoever.
Oh no!
How did none of you have any questions?
Yeah,
I mean, we got a lot of questions.
Are these guys just not interesting to you or something? I mean, you came here for a reason. I thought
we could do like an orientation style thing. When you start a new job and they say, "Tell us 3 things interesting about yourself."
Oh yeah, that's
sure.
That's my favorite. I missed that. I sure do miss that.
Oh, okay, Johnny. What's 3 interesting things about yourself?
Okay. Well, my name's not actually Johnny.
What?
Yeah, that's not actually Johnny. It's John.
Did you say it's John?
Yeah, it's just
Oh,
John.
bro, it's the same thing, bro. Come on.
Yeah.
It's like my name isn't Cam, it's Cameron. It's like, okay, come on.
True.
My name's not Scribelight, just so you know.
Oh, yeah. But I'll come up with 3 things and I'll
Okay, all right.
I promise.
Let's see. The one thing it's a blessing and a curse. My chat, best chat in the world. Actually, say for apparently there's one guy, and I've never had to like block somebody or ban somebody from my chat before, but there's one guy earlier who just made an absolute stinker of himself. But other than that, my chat is perfect because
It shows that you're growing now.
yeah, right. Yeah, I said the sweet stints of success. My chat, even people who are just visiting for the first time, they start these long, involved conversations of their own that have nothing to do with, or at least, or they peripherally have to do with what's going on the channel, and I appreciate that.
What kind
Always
of
making friends.
Random
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh yeah, I have like my moderators have very little to do. I'm very very grateful for them for having very little to do because my audience is so polite and welcoming.
You're doing a great
you don't-
job of
you-
entertaining. If all they want to do is listen, then that means you're doing a great.
I
You're doing a
hope
great
so.
job of entertaining them.
I hope so. Just as a note, I forgot to say at the top of the show, by the way, everybody, for those of you in the chat, if you do not know much about any of my guests, all of their particulars are in the description. I've got links to their YouTube channels, their Patreons, their Twitters, their secondary channels, so they got them there, and I remember to get them. So take a look at that. I even, just before, I added Johnny to the list as soon as I knew he was going to come on, so he's there as well. I feel like I'm reaching the end of my rhetorical rope here without going into other subjects that I'd like to try to save for more focused streams in the future.
Yeah, it'd be cool if this was a more regular thing, honestly.
Well,
It's a lot of fun.
That's my hope. I want to try to make this at least a once a month deal and try to say something
Yeah, I'd be
like
down.
every
down.
third Saturday or something like that, and try to arrange it. I know everybody's time zones and schedules are a little wonky, but I'll talk with you all offline. And there's some other people that had wanted to come on, but I guess couldn't make it. I think Mr. Black was thinking about coming on, but of course, where he is, it's probably like 3 a.m. right now, so might have to try to find a different time elsewise. But and Johnny and Kamran, I'd love to individually interview you each at some point. I'm kind of doing a reverse Avengers here by having you in before I've talked to you individually.
Sure.
So if we can figure that out sometime as well.
Sure.
Let's see. I am told there's a question somewhere up here that I have to find from. Okay, Plague Doctor is in. Can you repost it? Because I might have to scroll. Oh, here we go. Plague Doctor is in. What do you guys think of the Susan Lawrence case so far?
That's the lady who shot the black woman who was asking for help and she killed her, right? Or right? Is that the right one?
I don't know the name off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, so she's an older Caucasian or Caucasian presenting woman who shot and killed a black lady. I don't know who she was. My memory is that she was coming to the door and asking for help, and then the lady Susan Lawrence opened fire through the door and killed her. I do know that they just released sheriff's office just released the interrogation, but I don't know anything beyond that.
Surprise, surprise. What state was this in?
Florida, right? Yeah, Marion County. Yep.
Yeah, oh man. Welcome back, Dave.
Yeah, one of my cats knocked the cable out
Oh,
of the wall.
I thought it was Yoshi. I thought it was Yoshi going like, okay,
No.
I'm hungry now. Okay.
It was the evil cats. You have to do a video on them and their
Evil
despicable
cats.
crimes.
All right. Well, I think we were working our way towards closing things out because, like I said, there's several other broad topics about being in the quote unquote business of true crime that I want to ask you guys, but are definitely worthy of their own focus show. So in the absence of any further
Hi,
questions
kitty.
from the audience, sorry.
I see Drew's cat. I said hi.
Oh, kitty cat. So
She
thought I'd
doesn't
go-
stay around for very long, but I promised someone in the chat I would show her. Okay.
Oh, I see. Yes, everybody needs their cat time or their pet time. So if anybody else has any pets they'd like to show off, Dave, I'm looking at you. No.
I'll try get him there.
Oh, okay. But I thought I'd go around real quick and just ask each of you what you're working on right now, and or if you have any shout outs you'd like to give in general for other channels or organizations that people should pay attention to. Jurgi?
So, as far as shout outs, I would like to shout out my mom who is listening because today is her birthday.
Happy birthday, Mom.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
As far as organizations, we generally here in Lewiston support the Trinity Jubilee Center. They do a lot of things for the homeless community in the area, as well as making sure people downtown have proper nutrition and diapers and just things they need, job placements. They work with our immigrant community to help with necessary paperwork and documentation that they need and housing. So that is generally who we support if I'm not supporting a CAT organization.
Or a victim's family directly.
Or a victim's family directly. We recently were working with the family of Fallon Fridley. We were able to get her mother to a conference for victims' families in Las Vegas. So that's something that we were able to help out with, and I'm really proud of. And I made a friend out of it because we talk a lot now.
Nice.
Drewby, anything in tandem?
So for creators, shout out Explore with us, of course.
Yes, explore with us. Yeah, I'm
And,
hoping to have them, the collective, on at some point in the future.
Absolutely, that would be incredible. That would be
I know.
incredible. And also shout out to A Wicked World, who is up and coming on YouTube and has a very, very good channel. We've talked with her a couple times. She does primarily kids cases, but she's very good.
All right, Kamran, any upcoming projects or shout outs you'd like to give?
Well, the aforementioned Geniuses in Birmingham. I'm working on that. And I've got a police interview I'm working on in Florida. And yeah, no, just shout out to you guys. It's been me, Johnny, Jurgi, Ruby, we've become good friends, I'd like to think.
Absolutely.
So long may it continue.
Lovers, you might even say.
Whoa!
Oh.
Well, now that's a whole other show.
True crime got a whole lot weirder. What happened?
I love it.
I'm allowed 4 wives, so you're good, Johnny.
I'll just start a splinter podcast called True Love Crimes.
You say that is a Netflix show. You know it.
You're not kidding. You're not kidding.
That is. Oof. You got a business idea there, my friend.
Hey, I Netflix, I'm telling you, I am full of great ideas for the amount of money you spend and what you will produce. I have got gold for you. Just give me a call.
Yeah, they used AI on that true crime documentary to create a.
Oh God, that was
exist.
just real quick. Yeah, that whole Jennifer, what was her last name? I suddenly forget.
Jennifer Pan.
Pan, yeah, I've seen documentaries on that case for years now, and when I watched that one on Netflix and those images came up, I was like, I've never seen those before. Where did they? And I thought, wait, my brain just couldn't quite those are far too perfect, and she was never that sociable. Where did those photos come from? And when I found out after that, the AI made for crying out loud. That just real quick. Oh, hold on. Captain DN, thank you so much. This was fun. Thanks for gathering these true crime voices all together for us to listen to. I've got some new people to follow now. Well, that's great. Thank you, Captain DN. That's very generous of you.
Thank you, Captain.
Appreciate it. And hope you, obviously you enjoyed the show, but I hope you come around for the next one. Dave.
Can I tag onto that AI shit?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So it's just, it pisses me off because one thing that seems to be the trend right now for people that love to trash true crime creators.
Say it, Drewy. Say it.
People come in and they're just like, y'all are using AI, aren't you? That looks like AI. We put up a photo and it clearly looks like a photo from a photo album.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find it anywhere else just using Google. I think that's AI. You guys using AI right now? I'm going to report your channel for AI. And it's just like, holy fuck, what's wrong with you? But they don't care about what happened on Netflix. It's like, this is idea that people on YouTube are making all this money when in reality, if you're not Mr. Beast or Airac or something like that,
right,
chances are the content creator you're interacting with is a working class person like you are.
Yeah.
And you want their channel to crash and burn because for some reason your dumbass thinks we're using AI, but you're not going to cancel your Netflix subscription when they're doing shit like this. Like,
there's a lot of people that seem to equate view count with dollars made, and that's just not the reality.
Or subscriber count.
Or subscriber count. Yeah, I mean, when you have a subscriber count, maybe a fifth of that number is actually routinely active on your channel versus somebody just clicked it once and then never came back again, and only comes back once in a while. But that's a whole. I did and we can do this as a separate deal one time because the different voices experiences are great. But I did stream on the same series a while back with both Dave and Matt Orchard talking about the making a living part of being a true crime content creator. So we can go into that sometime in the future. Dave, what are you working on now? Because I know you're working like 15-hour editing sessions or something. Holy cats! Oh, holy dog! Sorry. So, once Yoshi calms down, what are you working on? And do you have any shout outs you'd like to give?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, the Shanda Vander Ark video I'm working on. I probably should have that out on early access later today, and then I'll release it publicly next weekend. That's a big video, so if you got the 4+ hours to watch it, dive in. That'd be appreciated. What's the other question? Shout outs. The organization that I usually direct people towards in Australia is the Smith family. They look after children who are growing up in poverty or have had difficult situations with their childhood. So I usually direct people towards the Smith family. And YouTubers, there's I haven't watched this channel in a really long time, so I don't know if there's some dodgy videos on there. I apologize, but his name is Barmer Mike. I've been trying to get you to get him on there.
Barmer Mike, yeah, I think I emailed him, but he never got back to me, so I don't know.
What a rude person, you know.
Well, you know, my emails get lost in spam, or I'm sending them to the wrong email address. It's a shot in the dark most of the time, anyway, so I don't blame him.
Yeah.
All right, Johnny, what you got coming up, and do you have any shout outs to give?
Yes. So, I mentioned I used to take about 2 months or so in season 1 for each video. I've been trying to do about a video a week now. My next 2 videos, one should be a case that I don't think anybody's heard of. I'll wait until I finish it for everybody to find out. I've also got the Susan Larynx video coming out the week after that. As far as shout outs go, obviously everybody here. I want to include Just Interrogations on that. I want to include Damon Variel, obviously Explore With Us. I want to also include Interrogation Files.
Yes, good stuff.
Couch Detectives, formerly known as 8MC, 8-Minute Crime.
Did he change his name? Is that I thought that was familiar. Okay.
Yeah.
Why change the name? Just because?
That's probably a good question. I probably should have asked him that, but I said congrats on the name change. But yeah, I think he's got one of those red detective guys on there. I don't know. If you watch a lot of true crime, you'll notice a lot of people with red detectives as avatars. Anyway, also shout out to my friend, Internet Anarchist, close friend who's helping out a lot. And Scribelight, obviously, to you.
Oh, thank you so much. As for myself, regular plug. I'm hoping to set this up as a regular monthly panel discussion with individual interviews spotted in between as I am able to arrange them. As far as other projects, well, those in my channel know my other stuff, non-true crime related. As far as shout outs, I want to give a shout out to Little Shop of Crime. As the name says, a little channel, but Steve has probably one of the most soothing narrative voices I've ever heard. No offense to those present, there's just something about his voice that makes listening to terrible things palatable. And also, if you haven't heard of them, Dreading, great channel. A couple of others run that now, and they do some of the most engaging long form series. They did an entire series in Chris Watts. They did an entire series on Ezra McCandless, going over all the interrogation stuff from stem to stern. I can't even imagine trying to process through some of that stuff sometimes. So yeah, those 2 channels. And of course, all my guests, again, all their particulars are in the description if you need them, if you hadn't heard of them before. And so as we wrap up First and foremost, I want to thank everybody here for taking the time out to talk to me tonight and with each other, because it's been very illuminating, and I'm looking forward to talking to you guys again in the near future and bringing on other people to I like the idea of collecting people together that may not have met each other before within the genre to have a chance to commiserate and share ideas and thoughts. So I'm hoping to do that more as time goes on. Let's see, before I completely lose my plot here. Oh yeah, at the top of the chat, everybody, if you haven't already seen it, there's a link up there to the donation page for the National Center for Victims of Crime. Please take a look at that if you can and donate if you're able, or share that out on social media. And speaking of which, if you like this kind of thing, you guys are our best algorithm. Sharing is caring, and liking is liking. Leaving a comment apparently helps the algorithm, I hear. So if you'd like to see more of this kind of thing, if you want to get the attention of other people who are interested in true crime, or heaven forfend, I attract other true crime content creators to want to come onto my channel, that'd be great. Please share this stuff out with the people that you know and on the platforms that you use. Appreciate it. But with that, all being said, everyone, again, thank you so much for joining me. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for joining us. If you have questions for anybody on here that you didn't get to do, or you're listening to this in the future, post a comment or find their Twitter in the description, and you can send them that as well. And also, not only this, but if there's a true crime content creator out there, or a content creator in general, whoever it is that you appreciate, share their stuff. And if you're able to, tag them in that sharing, because I know that when it happens for me, I appreciate when it happens, and I thank you directly when I can, to let you know how much I do appreciate. I'm sure these guys would as well. So everyone, moderators, thank you so much for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated, either to myself or to the victims of crime at the top of the chat there, thank you so much for your generosity. It's very much appreciated. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. Hope everybody has a good rest of their Saturday evening and weekend and week ahead. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and we'll see you on the next one. And if my guest would stick around just for another minute or two here so I can talk to you offline, appreciate it. And see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye. There you go. Yay!